Hello, everybody, and it's time to recap UFC Vegas 79 slash UFC Gamrot versus Fiziev, or was it Fiziev versus Gamrot? I don't even remember. But anyways, the Fiziev Gamrot headlined UFC Fight Night. I'll also talk a little bit about the Bellator card. Very, very, very briefly. Not a full review or anything like that, but just very, very briefly. If you are a fan of grappling, need to go watch the Mansour Barnui versus JJ Wilson fight. That was excellent. And I would also suggest the Mads Burnell Daniel Weichel fight. That was excellent. And I would also suggest the spinning back kick knockout in a heavyweight fight. Heavyweight fight by Sergey Bilosteiny. Is that the name? I don't know. He's the Russian heavyweight on the card. There you go. Also, a little bit of news. I have a bit of a new setup today, so I'm hoping it sounds better. It may not. We'll find out. But anyways, it's a new setup with a new boom arm, new pop filter, a new shock absorbing mount, so that if I hit the desk, the mic doesn't move. That's a nice improvement from previous. So yeah, I'm hoping the sound is a little bit better. Let's talk about the card. And prediction wise, did really, really well on this card. Actually, I would argue I got basically every fight correct. Not in terms of winner, because Montserrat Rendon did beat Tamiris Vidal. I picked Vidal to win that fight. That did not happen. I also picked Brunrich to lose to Jacob Malkoun. He ended up winning by disqualification. Got that one wrong. And in the main event, we had essentially a leg injury in the fight with Rafael Fiziev and Mateusz Gamrot. And then everything else I got right. Bryce Mitchell won. Marina Rodriguez won. Brian Battle won. Charles Jourdain won. Although I will be quite clear on this, not remotely in the way I expected him to win. Miles Johns won, picked him to win. Tim Means won for the reasons I thought he would. Muhammad Usman, Jake Collier, I called pretty much right down. And then Mizuki Inoue, Hannah Goldie, that was closer than I expected it to be. But at the end of the day, did go the way of Mizuki Inoue. And I think I scored all 3 rounds for her. Let's talk about the main event real quick, because there's, honestly, there's not a lot to talk about here because the fight ended in the first round. And the fight ended on a leg injury. In the second round. 7 minutes total into the fight. And it has sparked some conversation, some controversy, essentially regarding the idea of that's not a win. Here's the thing. Throughout the history of MMA, if a fighter gets injured in a fight, they do lose. If it's bad enough to essentially stop the fight. In this case, Gamrot pounced on him and pounded him out, legitimately. So it's a win. It's not a win that I'm going to apply positively to Gamrot in any real shape or form. Next time I break down a Mateusz Gamrot fight, it's not going to be talking about how he got the win against Rafael Fiziev and he looked really good. It's not that he didn't look good. It's that we didn't get to the point where his game would even really take over. And I had Fiziev winning. Fiziev was winning the stand-up, landing the better shots, and stuffing the takedowns. Granted, in a way that is a little bit silly from a gas tank standpoint and also just a knee standpoint. And considering that his knee, probably ACL based on Dr. Abbasi on Twitter X, he's the guy that tends to be the medical professional that a lot of people go to break down an injury. He thinks ACL injury. I tend to think so. As a guy who's just had knee injuries, ACL does make a lot of sense. So it's not what Gamrot did, because I don't believe the block of the kick led to the injury. I believe the knee was already compromised before he threw that kick. That's my personal take, my personal suggestion on the matter. But at the end of the day, he continued. He pounded him out. He got the win. He's got the W. He moves on. He moves up in the world. Called out Chucky Olives after the fact. He ain't getting that fight because, Number one, I think legitimately he's forgotten that Chucky Olives is fighting for the title. This is the continual proof that UFC fighters aren't necessarily fans of the product, aren't necessarily following it with the same intensity that the fans do. Because we see this all the time when someone calls out someone and they're booked or they're injured. Every so often, very very seldomly, but every so often you get a call out of a guy who's not even with the company anymore. And basically he's like, I'm not ready for the title shot. I know I'm not in a title shot position. And then he's like, but I am going to call out the guy who is challenging for the title. So that was a bit weird. So he's not going to get Charles Oliveira. That would be a fun fight, but one that I think proves nothing. I have penciled him in here against the Dawson-Bobby Green winner, specifically if it's Grant Dawson. If it's Bobby Green, don't do this fight. But if it's Grant Dawson, do that fight. That's the fight I have the most interest in. I said it quite repetitively. I wanted Fiziev versus Saryukian, and I wanted Gamrot versus Dawson. So obviously I'm calling for that still. And that's my personal opinion on the matter. But at the end of the day, this was a bit of a nothing burger as a fight. And Fiziev, obviously, if it is a torn ACL, going to be out a while. I don't have an opponent for him. There's no real matchmaking to play there. Let's move on to the Bryce Mitchell-Dan Ige fight. So I scored Dan Ige, Bryce Mitchell, first and third for Mitchell. And I think the third goes to Mitchell regardless. That's the obvious one. That's going nowhere. The first two rounds, though, are very, very close. The story of the first two rounds was Ige landing the better shots on the feet. I would think more shots. Let's have a look at UFC stats here real quick. No, in round one, actually, they had Mitchell ahead 14-10 and 20 in significant strikes and 20-14 overall. That's interesting. Like I said, I had him winning the round because, frankly, I thought his aggression, his pursuance of the takedown had smothered Ige's stand-up a fair bit. But Ige busted him up in that round. Like, he cut him open. And I think that really influenced a lot of people. That visual sight of the blood and the issues coming from that. And obviously the fact that eye got swollen up badly in the second round, I think tricked some people. Because there were like people who were like really, really angry about the 30-27 scorecard for Bryce Mitchell. Obviously, I don't agree with the 30-27 scorecard. But like at the same time, Ige didn't land a lot in either the first or the second round. Like over the course of the entire fight, he landed 18 significant strikes and only 32 strikes total. That is very, very low. That does bring us to that control, that grappling aspect, which Mitchell did win. Ige got on top and all once, but like he was clearly comprehensively outgrappled by your boy Bryce Mitchell. So I didn't have a problem with it, even though I did score the second round for Ige because it was mostly stand up. He busted him up quite a bit. And it was only at the end when Mitchell got the takedown and didn't really do much. Like Mitchell's problem, I think, from a scoring standpoint, is that there's not a lot of like ground and pound aspect. It's chasing the submission so that when he doesn't get the submission, it leaves the round a little bit more interesting than, say, a Khabib Nurmagomedov performance on the ground or someone else who has more of a bite and pounding to them. Let's talk about after the fight because that's the interesting part. I'm going to be quite blunt here, and I've said this a number of times. I don't care about the religious affiliation of fighters. I don't care about their political affiliations because, frankly, these are guys that get, punched and kicked in the head. We shouldn't really be. We really should not be like looking at them as a social, religious, political sources. Just period. Full stop. Period. And that's my view on it. That is my honest view on it. But someone really does actually need to check on Bryce Mitchell just in general. Because like his thing goes beyond religion, goes beyond politics, goes beyond really a lot of things. Like, this is a guy who believes the Hawaii fires are started by demons, but somehow is also about taking land from the natives. He has spouted ideas of like the end of the world. He doesn't believe in gravity. He is a flat earther. Like, individually, these would be like, fine, whatever. They're stupid. Fighters are dumb. There you go. But this man is on like every single conspiracy bandwagon, every single one. And I was saying this to someone on Twitter X, which I'm just going to keep calling it. The idea was that someone put forth is like, well, it's, religious freedom, whatever. I don't know why anyone's like concerned about this stuff. We're concerned about it for Bryce Mitchell because like we're in Diego Sanchez, Konstantin Gluhov, Vyacheslav Datsik, Jason Mayhem Miller, Joe Sun, Kimo Leopoldo, like religious, off the ball thinking conspiracy nuttery here. Like, we are at that point. We're not at Colby Covington being a Republican or even Jacob Volkman's weird fascination with the idea that Obama doesn't have a belly button. Sort of thing. Like, we're beyond that to the point where like this is a legitimate concern about him. Like, this isn't about like, man, we're not comfortable with you like spouting your political shit or whatever. It's like, it's a legitimate like, are you okay? Like, this, it's a bit much. That's my take. People are like, why wasn't him and Danny Ige allowed to pray at the end? Like, this is we're silencing religion now? No, dude, guys, the UFC will never silence religion. We have, be it Christian fighters or Muslim fighters, thanking God after every fight. We have had people pray in the octagon, like a quick little, get it out of the way, a pop prayer, if you will. The reason you don't let Bryce Mitchell do a prayer is, simply put, time. How many people get that much time in the octagon post-fight? And number two, you have no idea what this man is going to say. He's a little crazy. Especially after the whole thing with Charlie Radke and like Metal Cop and the homosexual slur stuff. Of course they're going to take the mic away from him. The guy comes off as crazy. It's not that the guy comes off as Christian. The guy comes off as crazy. That's my take on it. Again, I don't care from like an offensive standpoint or whatever. Bryce Mitchell doesn't offend me, but like to avoid the nasty stories that we end up with, like the bad endings, we've been down this road and seldom does it go to good places. So I don't know. Get that man some help. That's my take. That is my honest take. For our next opponent, I've penciled in Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar seems to have like a lot of good buzz on social media, and like people are actually kind of hyped for his return. Bryce Mitchell feels about the right area for that, and it's also like a big question, basically, because like with this fight, like a big thing that kept coming up is Dan Ige is one of the shorter featherweights, one of the lacking of reach guys. He's got a 71-inch reach. He's 5'7". I guess the reach is not actually that bad. 71 inches is not terrible. We're going to talk about AJ Fletcher in a bit. But he's one of the shorter guys, and it kind of precludes him from being able to really play an outside boxing game. Whereas Calvin Kattar has the option to do that. If I'm not, I should have pulled up Calvin Kattar's reach, but I want to say Calvin Kattar has a notably longer reach than either of these men. And he's certainly taller. He's 5'11". Okay, it's only a 72-inch reach, but 5'11", 72-inch reach. That'd be interesting because I still think that there are some definitive weaknesses, some definitive exploits in Bryce Mitchell's game that I think people are like just overlooking. But maybe I'm wrong. You know what? If he goes out there and he beats Calvin Kattar, maybe I have to forget about that. A lot of people are calling for the Bozar Evil fight. I'm just not all that interested. And for Ige, I would love the idea of him fighting Lerone Murphy. That to me feels like a great option. Moving on down. Marina Rodriguez executed Michelle Waterson. There's a lot of controversy about this fight not being stopped. I'm going to defend the referee here for a second. A lot of referees have gotten a bit of a blowback about stopping women's fights too early. And I do kind of think that if this were a men's fight, we wouldn't have the same reaction. I'm not accusing anyone of being sexist or gender biased or whatever, but there has historically been from the community a slightly different tolerance for damage and violence. Because to me, Waterson never stopped effectively defending herself, or I should say, intelligently defending herself, because the effectiveness that's debatable. I know that people have pointed out like she stopped throwing back. There was like a minute of passivity, but like the thing is, how many fights have we seen stopped because somebody stops throwing back? You generally have to actually stop defending yourself before we really go into that whole or get knocked down or whatever, before we actually get a stoppage. Like this did not look like, say, Mikey Burnett's standing TKO over. I can't remember who it was, but like he like knocked a guy silly, so like he was out on his feet. That wasn't the case. Like Waterson-Gomez was in this fight though, mentally the whole time. She just didn't have answers. Now I will say the fight should have been stopped, but I think the corner should throw the towel in. I am very pro. We should see more corner towels thrown in, because your fighter is getting thrashed, and your fighter is at the tail end of her career. She's 1-5 in her last 6, now 1-6 in her last 7. It's kind of weird because like Waterson has looked actually pretty okay in a lot of those losses, and I don't think she's done by any means, but like she's not going to a title shot. You know what I mean? Like she's gotten to her apex and now she's on her way down. You should be, as a corner, trying to save her from damage. So I would say the corner should have stopped the fight. I actually think the referee was fine. But like Rodriguez was eating her up at range. They were getting close. Rodriguez would get the Thai plum clinch, absolutely waylay her with shot after shot after shot. What actually was the final strike count here? Kind of interesting, because this was about as close to a 10-7 as you're going to say. They scored it all 10-8s, but like, yeah, 51-10 in significant strikes, 67-13 overall. Waterson did get a takedown, did get like 2 minutes of top control, the 2 minutes of control time, that'd be top control and clinch control, I guess. But she got beat down. This was worse than I thought it would be. But at the same time, I said that this was weird matchmaking, because it was like, okay, I understand that the first fight they had was at 125 without a weight cut going into play, without a full camp and all that, short notice main event type deal. But like Rodriguez won 4 out of 5 rounds of that fight, and there was nothing that like Waterson didn't do during that fight. There wasn't any like standard thing that she does that wasn't on display. I didn't think that a full camp was going to make any difference for her. I mean, I guess you could argue that Rodriguez, being the bigger girl, having to actually make weight would be more of an ordeal, but it's not like Rodriguez has had a particularly hard time making straw weight. So I didn't understand why this fight was made. It seemed a bit pointless. Marina gets a win, moves up. She wanted Tatiana Suarez. I wouldn't give her that. By the way, this was one of the many skinny bets call outs. Here's the thing. Here is the thing. I have no moral problem with gambling. I give gambling advice, although, with the caveat that you really should only bet what you can lose. But that's betting, period. Like that's not that's a practical limitation. But given again the whole James Krause betting thing investigation, you would think the UFC would really have told the fighters to stop. We hadn't seen it in a while. I'm sure there have, but like this fight card felt a little bit thick on the skinny bet shoutouts and all of that stuff. So that's on the comeback. That's a little surprising. And also, like, again, this is why letting fighters actually get sponsors, so so that they can wear the sponsor stuff instead of shouting out their sponsors afterwards is great. I'm not really in for the NASCAR thing. Marina Rodriguez versus Virna Jandiroba is the fight that I would do. I keep thinking it's happened. Like I looked through Marina Rodriguez's past and it was like I was certain she had fought Virna Jandiroba, and it doesn't look like it. Her UFC run has been Ronda Marcos, Jessica Aguilar, Tisha Torres, Cynthia Calvillo, Carla Esparza, Amanda Hibosh, Karate Hottie, Michelle Waterson, Mackenzie Dern, John Yan. I'm thinking maybe it's the Mackenzie Dern fight I'm thinking of. Oh no, she did lose to Jandiroba. She's coming off of that. Jesus, how did I not see that before? It won't be Suarez that she gets because like Suarez is basically the number one contender after the Chinese title fight with Weili Zhang and Zhang Yan. It would make more sense for Suarez to fight Virna Jandiroba, even, actually, to be honest. The question with Rodriguez is like, what does she do against somebody who has like a strong takedown game, strong wrestling, and like the physicality to back it up, which Waterson doesn't really have. So if Jandiroba is not an option, she's fought Mackenzie Dern. That's not an option. We could go back and revisit Carla Esparza. Rematch. It's not sexy, but it does the job. Rematch with Lemos. Also there, I guess. Tabitha Ricci, Baby Shark. There you go. Tabitha Ricci versus Marina Rodriguez. Book it. And for Waterson, like I said, I don't feel like I don't want to see her fight anymore, sort of thing. Like she's not at that point. Like I'm not like coming into this fight. Like I just thought it was a useless matchup. Not so much like, man, Waterson's kind of done. And to be honest, I'm still not really thinking she's done. She just has the same limitations she's always had. She's small, and her game is not really that of like a small, quick person. Never really has been. Like certain elements of it are, like the Karate Hottie nickname with the sidekicks and stuff. Like that is too. But like a lot of her best work comes in the clinch and in like wrestling exchanges, and it's hard to make that work with an atomweight build. So I don't know. Like give her like a final. Give her some easy fights and take advantage of her while she, leaves the sport, I guess. And it goes over to like Karate Combat or something. She's 1-6 in her last 7. It's hard to figure out what you want to do with that. Brian Battle, AJ Fletcher. Battle got dropped in the first round with a big elbow while they were clinching, but that was like, and the first round up until that point had been pretty 50-50. But like, aside from that, Fletcher's 67-inch reach really comes into play here. Battle was able to beat him from the outside. Eventually ended up grappling with him. Ended up getting him on the ground, getting top position, getting the rear naked choke. Boom, done. Gets the job done. Says that he's the guy that everyone's like kind of ducking, essentially. No one wants to fight him. Probably true. Like he's an unranked guy who, is kind of dangerous at a lot of different things, and to be honest, doesn't have the profile that probably fits his skill set. But like at the same time, my guy, you are beating dudes at the very bottom of the division. Like if you look at his wins in the UFC, it's AJ Fletcher, terminally short man syndrome, Gabe Green, all kinds of problems there. Takeshi Sato, all kinds of problems there. Tresean Gore, all kinds of limitations there, and Gilbert Urbina, all kinds of issues there. Like, those are 5 guys not super high up, and you did get wrestled bombed by Renat Fakhretdinov. So I don't know. I'm still not sure how good he is, but like, it is time for a step up. I've got like Max Griffin as an option. That'd be cool. And for Fletcher, I've actually got Gilbert Urbina, because I don't know what to do with Fletcher. Like, the problem with Fletcher is, like, my guy has a 67-inch reach. That's a big problem. Like, that is a chronic limitation. That is a reach that belongs at like bantamweight, and you're at welterweight. Like, that is, and I feel like I am a 71-inch reach, 205 size guy. When I'm sparring with people my own like weight, it is miserable. It is why I have no range game, because there's no point. I am going for the cling, the swinging cling all the time. That's Fletcher in a nutshell. It's a serious limitation. Charles Jourdain, Ricardo Ramos. If you had Charles Jourdain guillotines Ricardo Ramos, congratulations. I've seen it happen, and I still think you're crazy. I don't know. This was kind of bizarre with like Ramos just getting stuck and like doing, going for the Von Flue choke, but then like not quite committing to it. And I honestly don't know what to make of this fight. Like, is Jourdain just that deadly with the guillotine? Is he Cody McKenzie levels of deadly with the guillotine? Or is Ramos just like the most breakable fighter at featherweight? I don't know. Jourdain called out Cub Swanson afterwards. I'm fine with it. Everyone is calling out Cub Swanson, and I do think it's kind of lame. Like, he's going after like all the old guard. Like, he called out Edson Barbosa, now it's Cub Swanson. It's like guys who are definitively not at their best anymore. Still good, like still functional. I don't feel bad watching them fight, but like, it's like, I don't know, go after some of the new breed. Don't make your name off of old skulls. But I'd be fine with it. Ramos versus Daniel Pineda would be a dope fight, because Daniel Pineda will either burn in his own gas tank or Ramos will break, and that'll be fun. Miles Johns, Daniel Argueta. I had Argueta winning the first round, but then he lost the second and the third, in my opinion. The fight went largely like what I thought it was going to. Like, Argueta has more scrap than him, more volume than him, more pace than him, and all that. Like, it's great. But like, he has a bully wrestle boxer style of fighting, and he just isn't that athletic. Miles Johns is really athletic. Like, when he hits you, it's a life-changing experience. And he's really, really hard to out-wrestle. And that was the fight. I hate to like oversimplify the fight, because it was a good fight. It was a fun fight. If you didn't see it, go back and watch it. Great. What was the fight of the night here tonight? Oh, they gave it to Tim Means, Andre Fiallo. I'm fine with that. Marina Rodriguez, Charles Jourdain got the performance of the night bonuses. Yeah, it is what I expected. Argueta is the type of guy that is not going to get blown out of the water by anyone. He's not going to get destroyed. You're not going to look super great against him. I just think that if you look at his regional level fights, he beat a lot of guys who were just profoundly not physical. And it's going to be hard to find that in the UFC's one of, if not the most athletic division in the UFC. It's just going to be hard to find that. Which is why I have him against Dana White Contender Series fodder. I think that's perfect. He's an aggressive, scrappy guy who's not unathletic, who can welcome people to the division, be like, hey, what's up? If you can get past me, you're probably going, you might be going places. You might have potential. If you can't, well, then we know. And Jones, I've got the winner of Cameron Simon, Christian Rodriguez. That's my opinion. By the way, Miles Johns had a touching thing about like the suicide of his brother-in-law, and also that he was apparently very, very injured in camp. So, post-fight moment of the night. in terms of like just emotional punch. Tim Means, Andre Fiallo, which was the fight of the night. This also went largely like I thought it was. Means got hit a lot. Fiallo had his moments, had him hurt, and then got hurt a lot back. And it's kind of sad because there was a time when I was like, I'm always a sucker for like guys from countries that don't have a lot of MMA success. And Portugal's got like a little bit, but not much. Not much. They're basically, if you're not Brazilian, American, Russian, the UK, I'll probably be like fairly happy to see you doing well because those, outside of that, like MMA is still very, very much a growing sport in almost any other country. I guess Australia, New Zealand, to a certain degree, don't fit that. But you see a flag that you're not used to seeing. You're like, oh, this is interesting. This is cool. Let's see. And Fiallo, he had an exciting, crowd-pleasing style to him. But like at the same time, I always had the idea that it was built on a lot of fake confidence. That there was always this inherently mental break hesitation that was always there with him. And sadly, I think at the end of the day, I'm just correct on making that assumption. And he broke here and he got finished. And Tim Means, 39 years old, still doing his thing. Hard to believe because man is no one's idea of an athlete. But he still gets it done, still goes out there, still one of my absolute favorite fighters. Just an absolute blue-collar hero in this sport. I've got him against Kenan Song next, and then for Fiallo, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if he got cut. I think he's lost 4 in a row. Like they would be in his rights to cut him or let him go if he's at the end of his contract. I still have like a little bit of hope there though. But like I think unfortunately the thing here is he's with Henry Hooft. And to be clear, Henry Hooft is on my list of coaches that are incredibly good, but incredibly situational. I don't think he suits Fiallo. I just don't. I don't think it's the right environment. I don't think it's the right ideas. So hopefully he gets sent to somewhere where he can improve. That's honestly my hope. I know it's like weird to be saying, I want you to leave one of like the 5 best camps in MMA. But I think that is actually the answer. Cody Brunridge, Jacob Malkoun. This ended up in a DQ. Malkoun was out scrambling him, had top position, had his back, whacked him with an elbow right to the back of the head. I will say that it's always a bit weird. MMA and DQs are like in a very weird place that like a lot of stuff gets rendered a no contest or stuff like that when it comes to like illegal shots and whatever. I can't say that I have any real problem with getting DQ'd for doing something like this. This is a hard foul. Malkoun had 100% control over the situation, so it is absolutely his fault. This is not a case of like a head kick where somebody, a foot wraps around the back of the head and kicks him in the back of the head. No. This is you had dominant position. You had control of your own body, your opponent's body, and you just smashed him with an illegal blow. So I can't. I'm not defending Malkoun at all. I'm just thinking that this is an area where I would like to see a lot more codification as to what happens. Because like we even have the idea of like if this had happened after 2.5 minutes into the second round, maybe it even goes to the scorecards instead of being a DQ loss, which is a little bit insane. So I think we need to think about that a little bit. Next opponents, I've got Brunridge against Josh Fremd. They're kind of the same guy. One of them should go down to being Dana White Contender Series fodder. The other goes up and is, a test to slightly more established people. Make that happen. And then Malkoun I've got against Phil Haas for a rematch of a fight that Malkoun lost before. But has looked much better, and Haas has looked I don't want to say worse because like Phil Haas is like famous for looking real good until he gets knocked out. But that's an option. Jake Collier versus Muhammad Usman. This is a good example. Muhammad Usman pokes Jake Collier in the eye, busts it up very clearly, and we end up continuing because realistically, it probably wasn't going to be a DQ loss, despite it being like a foul, and not a foul on the same level as Malkoon's foul, but again, different ref, different situation, and suddenly we have a very different thing going on here. He elected to continue. I don't want to say completely gassed out, but like I think he was definitely tireder. He was less willing to throw kicks and so on. Not nearly as diverse as he was in the first round. Not nearly as aggressive as he won in the first round. I thought he won the first round, but then Usman started just sticking him with the jab, following it up with like a little bit of power. And like I said, he's just kind of durable enough to like survive the first round with Collier. Like that's the problem is Collier doesn't have great power. He's not a fantastic finisher. And then he fades out and he gasses out. Because he's a 205er at best, and probably more or less a middleweight who just is fat. And I can relate. Collier's another guy who has lost 4 in a row. Maybe he just gets cut, but I would personally use him as a Dana White Contender Series welcome guy because he'll put them through hell for a round. And for Usman, I've got Justin Tafa. By the way, the 30-27 here was garbage. Collier won that first round. Mizuki Inoue, Hannah Goldie. Essentially, this fight was kept close by the fact that Inoue kept ending up in the clinch. When they were at range, or even in the pocket. Sorry, I have a burp. Okay, it's passed. When they were at range, like Inoue was lighting her up a little bit, had superior hand speed, superior striking. Not a surprise. This is Hannah Goldie. But Goldie was able to keep suckering her into the clinch. Don't get me wrong, some amazing takedown defense by Inoue. There were some seriously deep on the hip takedown attempts by Goldie that Inoue somehow made go away. I'm stunned by that. But yeah, I mean the problem for Inoue is that she always is a little bit physically overmatched. She's probably honestly an atomweight. Talking about like the Michelle Waterson problem, and there's just some questions there that like someone like Goldie, who is not good at anything but is just a complete powder keg of a human being. By the way, my friend Javier, who was watching the fights with me, has officially dubbed her Mad Hannah. We always called Hannah Cyphers Sad Hannah. This is Mad Hannah. Yeah, for next opponent, I gave all 3 rounds for the record to Inoue. If you gave rounds to Goldie, I don't have a problem with it. They were all pretty close. I got Mizuki against Jacqueline Amarin, and Goldie is like the default Dana White Contender Series. Welcome aboard. Here's a really physical person who's just not very good at anything, and see what happens. And then Tamiris Vidal, I scored the first round for Vidal. She landed the better strikes, in my opinion. And she was the one who controlled the clinch more so. The clinch was pretty 50-50 between these two girls early. I'd be interested. What were the striking numbers? Yeah, Vidal outlanded her too as well. 23-17 in significant strikes, 31-27 in total strikes, and then she got outlanded in the second and third round. The second round, I think, is at the end of the day the push. The striking was pretty close in terms of significant strikes, only a 4-strike difference. I did give it for Rendon. Apparently, Judge Chris Lieben, the Crippler, gave it to Vidal. I'm okay with it. This was also where, now, admittedly, this is where the fight should have ended in the second round because Rendon at one point punched Vidal in the boob and the ref paused action. Well, Vidal basically was calling for a timeout. You're not supposed to do that. It is legal to punch a girl in the boob in the UFC. That's not a prohibited strike. I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often, actually. And then we did get the amusement, though, of Vidal getting like a second win at that point and just like spamming low kicks while yelling. Her lack of setup for low kicks, so that was a problem because Rendon caught several kicks of hers to drop her to the mat, I think like 3 times. And that's how Rendon got her takedowns. Third round was all Rendon, in my opinion. She kind of walked her down. She worked the boxing. She worked the clinch. She controlled the clinch. She did her thing. Rendon winning 29-28 on a split is fine. For next opponents, I've got Rendon against Jocelyn Edwards. Arthur Vidal against Haley Cohen. I would be so much more excited for Montserrat Rendon. And I said this in the preview, if she wasn't in her mid-30s. Because real talk, this girl is built like a tank, built like a power lifter, basically. And she has, I love all the ideas of how her game works. It's just everything is very raw and lacking dynamicism and lacking danger. It's a little too predictable and simplistic. But like it's the great bare bones to build a game. It's just that she has like 3 years to do it. Because like in 3 years' time, she's gonna be karate hottie age and probably done. That's kind of the problem. And Vidal is a mess. Vidal I've got against Haley Cohen or Cowan, I think probably Cowan. Anyways, I'm kind of big on Haley Cowan. See what she can do. Again, sort of similar to this one with Rendon. A super physical fighter and see what happens. That was the fight card. We got another UFC coming up next weekend. We'll go quickly over that fight card. Give like some just. Oh, we got one. We got one coming up. 2 of 1 events. Hang on. One fighting championship. What we got? Sundell's on the card. Stan Fairtex is on the card against Sohee Ham. Very nice. Daniel Kelly's on the card. Very nice. It is definitely a very ladies-themed card. Very, very, very nice. After that, not much great. I don't know as much about kickboxing. I fully admit that. I'm tempted to take Stan Fairtex against Sohee Ham. We'll think about it. We'll think about it and probably give a pick on the next preview. And then on Fight Night 15, Mikey Musumeci versus Shinya Aoki. That's going to be so much fun. Timothy Nass-Fukin's back. Thon Lee is back. They're both fun fighters. It's something to look forward to. And for the next UFC card. Oh yeah, it's the Dawson Green card. This one's kind of weak. But I mean Dawson versus Green is still it's not much of a main event, but like it's a good fight. Joe Pyfer versus Razak Al Hassan, that's all kinds of fun. Drew Dober versus Ricky Glenn, that's all kinds of fun. Bill Algeo versus Alex Hernandez, that's all kinds of fun. I'm pretty interested in Morono versus Joaquin Buckley. But then there is like some pretty bad fights. Like I am not looking forward to Richie Lang versus Johnny Munoz Jr. They did my idea though. I'm pretty sure I called for JJ Aldridge versus Montana De La Rosa. So there you go. I'm finally getting some of the fights I'm picking. Anyways, check out the description down below, to the left, to the right, above. I don't know where it is. I don't know where you're watching this, but you'll find a link to my link tree there for other places you can take this in and other ideas I have, and social media, video gaming stuff. My Discord server where we're going to be doing September Bloody Mania this week. And I'm going to have fun with that. So until check me out there, and I'll see you next time.